Okay, so we shall continue our lecture with Pdm diagram. Let me make it bigger. Pdm diagram. Okay. Normally, in Pdm diagram, information that will be given to you for the academic purposes, or even if, for instance, later on you need to develop the Pdm diagram or whatever diagram, first thing first, you need to have list of activities by the real name, not just ABC. Then you need to identify the duration of each activity. The unit can be weeks, months, days, year, whatever. It is up to you, or even hours, okay, or even as simple as minutes. If you just doing the work activity for a day, for instance, you want to split into minutes. You can. And then successor or predecessor. It doesn't matter. This is just normally predecessor is by default, but successor is another way of putting the relationship so that people can understand. And then type of relationship, okay, you indicate. If you do not say anything, automatically people will understand that it is finished to start relationship by default. But once you indicate by SS, other than that, then people will understand. And then you indicate lag or lead. Okay, lag or lead. For instance, in this situation, SS plus 1. That is the way to write down the type of relationship. Plus 1 meaning to say lag 1, okay, 1 day. This one, FS plus 1, indicate type of relationship finish to start by lag is 1 days. Okay. And when you draw the network diagram, you start with activity A. Okay. In this situation, it doesn't have the predecessor. We use successor, A and then B. Okay. This is much easier. If successor wise, to draw the diagram is much easier. I would like to use successor rather than predecessor. Let's say A. What come after A, B, and D? Okay. So you just simply draw one box. What come after A, B, and D? So you just draw another two box, A, and put it B, and then just line the arrow connecting A and B, and then connect A to D. That is what we call successor, which is easier. Then how about B? B, the successor is C. So you already have B, and then you just connect one arrow into B. That's it. And then how about C? C doesn't have any successor. C, meaning to say C is at the end of the project. And then how about E? Okay, E, D. Okay, D, the successor is E. Okay. And then how about E is the successor is C. So the successor and predecessor is just meant to connect the activity together. Otherwise, they are hanging, okay, without any connection. We do not want that thing in a network diagram. As much as possible, all the activity should be connected to another activity. That is a good network diagram should be. Okay, and then you notice that leg 1, it depends. Sometimes people indicate something like this, Fs plus 1. But if people just simply put 1 here, so automatically the relationship is already Fs. You don't have to draw to show the relationship. Okay, this one is basically SS. Why? Because it is coming from the left side and goes into the left side, SS plus 1. See, plus 1, this one. So it has implication to calculation. Okay, let's start with 0. 0 plus 2 equivalent to 2. Okay, then 2 will be transferred here, 2. 2 plus 2 equivalent to 4. Everything is inside the box. And how about D? See, 0, the calculation is 0 plus 1 equivalent to 1. So that's why 1 is there. 1 plus 1 equivalent to 2. Then 2 is transferred here to 2 plus 3 equivalent to 3. And then lastly, okay, 4 here, 4 plus 1 equivalent to 5. So 5 and 3, 5 is the biggest value or the bigger among 2. So 5 is here, 5 plus 1 equivalent to 6. So 6 is the overall project duration. Okay, and then 6 here, 6, copy back, 6 here, 6 minus 1 equivalent to 5. 5 then transfer to here, but then 5 have to be transferred here, but when you do backward, you also need to minus, because for forward pass, everything is plus, plus, plus. Now, when you do the backward calculation, you need to minus. How do you minus actually? 5 minus plus 1, as if 5 minus 1 equivalent to 4. 4 minus 2 equivalent to 2. And then 5 minus 1 equivalent to 4. 4 transfer here. 4 minus 1 equivalent to 3. 2 transferred it here. 2, and then see how it go back to 0. By doing that, then only you will see certain activity do have early start, early finish, late start, late finish with different values, especially for what we call E and then D, because E and D basically do have what we call values for total float. Okay, for A, B, C, the value of total float equivalent to 0. Automatically, they are considered as critical activity and critical path. Okay, so always remember, first, the type of activity will influence the calculation, and then the lag and lead will also influence the calculation. At the end of the day, you have to take into account all those things. Then only you will get the right answer. Okay, you notice that when there is a total float, the dotted line indicates total float. Where you want to use this total float later on, when we utilize what we call resource requirement, then only you will notice there is the importance of having float, because we want to drag the what we call activity to certain date. We do not want to do it as early as possible. We might want to use as late as possible, or even in between. Okay, now come into our example of Pdm diagram. Okay, which different type of relationship. You notice different type of relationship. Okay, SS plus 3, meaning to say there is a lag here, and then minus 1 here, lead or negative lag, and this one also lead by 2, and then also different relationship, finish to finish, finish to start with lag. Okay, now let's see how those type of relationship plus lag and lead will influence the calculation. Okay, first thing first, when you get this kind of what we call information to be used in the test or exam, whatever, because we are talking about academic exercise, so you must be able to draw the diagram. How to draw the diagram? Start by bit, okay? List of activity, A, B, C, D first, okay? Duration is there. Then predecessor. You notice that the start doesn't have the predecessor. So meaning to say the start basically is the real start of the activity. Okay, it is just a milestone activity. Then what come what activity basically do have the predecessor with the start? You notice that activity A, B, and D, the predecessor is start. So meaning to say, A, B, and D must be the starting activity as well. Okay, except that once we have the milestone, then we simply connect those. So you draw one box, okay, doesn't have to be a nice box. Just simply draw A, and then B, and then D. The issue is that, why do we put D here? Maybe on the first trial of drawing those things, you might put, instead of D, you might put B here, and then D here. It doesn't matter. You might basically rearrange the position of the activity in different way. Your friend might be drawing in different way. So at the end of the day, you might have the arrow tangling around and all kind of mess up the look of the arrangement of the activity. So that's okay as long as you get the relationship correct. So your diagram must be correct, except that you can then redraw in order to arrange activity in a better way. Okay, so let's assume that we already done this thing in a nice way. We just put A and then draw D and then B, and then we put the activity duration inside the box. Okay, then C. Okay, C simply say the predecessor is A. So now we know that we must connect arrow from A into C. How the arrow is being connected? Look at the type of relationship. So basically it says start to start. Now the arrow is coming from the left side and go into the left side, indicate start to start with the lag of 3 days. So we indicate that lag 3 days. Because why? If you do not do that, then later on you might miss certain thing, because the calculation must include those things. Then continue with E. E, the predecessor is B. So where is the E? Okay, here is the E. We already have B, so we just simply connect the arrow. What type of relationship? Since it is not mentioned anything, so automatically it is considered as finish to start relationship by default. Okay, so we don't have, for finish to start relationship, we don't have to write down FS. Automatically people will understand. Then how about F? Okay, F, the predecessor is E. Where is F? Predecessor is A, sorry. F is here, predecessor is A. Okay, but the type relationship is also finished to start with negative lag. So we indicate those things. And how about G? G is coming from A and D. So G, we draw a box, then the connect arrow from A and then from D. How about H? H, connect arrow from C. Okay, so that's how you draw your network diagram. Then complete the rest. How about I? Okay, I, you draw a box I, you put it somewhere, but then you connect from the predecessor. I is from F. F is already here. Just connect from F, and then from H. H is already there. You connect them, but the relationship is finish to finish. This is a little bit different. You notice that SS, FF is a little bit different from what we normally know. Okay, and then it has negative lag. Okay, how about J? J from two relationship G and E. This is J from E. Okay, finish to start, and from G, it finish to finish plus 3. That is another unique relationship. And how about K? K basically connected from E. And then finish. Finish as a milestone. It doesn't have anything actually, but in order to complete the network diagram nicely, everything is in a closed loop. So we connect those things together, IJK. Okay. Now you have completed the drawing. You must go back and check one by one whether you get the relationship correct, and then make sure when you input the duration inside the box, the duration is also correct. Sometimes that is the issue. People put the relationship wrongly, then you try to solve the problem, it will take you a few months to notice that the relationship is basically wrong. Okay. Now we want to do the calculation. We call it forward pass calculation. Remember, forward pass is basically early start plus duration equivalent to early finish to get the value of early finish. Meaning to say, the top value inside the box. The left and right side of the box indicate early start and early finish. So we start with 0. 0 plus 0 equivalent to 0. That is the starting point. 0 will be transferred here to A, to B, and to D, and to B. So A, B, A, D, B start with 0. Actually, they are starting relationship anyway. Even without the start milestone, the value will be, the 0 will be put inside the box anyway. 0 plus 7 is, do the calculation inside the box. 0 plus 7 equivalent to 7. For D, 0 plus 10 equivalent to 10. For B, 0 plus 5 equivalent to 5. Okay. Now we already completed A, D, B. How about C? Okay, remember C, start from A. So the calculation is like this. 0 plus 3 equivalent to 3. So this is 3 that goes into the beginning of C. 3 plus 11 equivalent to 14. Then 14 transfer here because finish to start relationship. 14 plus 8 equivalent to 20. Okay, now we do F. F. How do we do that? Okay, remember, this is the relationship. Everything basically add. Okay, we add the value 7 plus minus 1. As if 7 minus 1 equivalent to 6. So that's how we get 6. 6 plus 5 equivalent to 11. Okay, we finish on an activity F. How about activity G? Okay, activity G, please look at how many arrows going into an activity. And that is another way to be extra careful. Otherwise, you will make a mistake. Okay, so G, 2 arrows coming in from A and from D. Let's assume from A, 7 will go inside here. So the value will be 7 here. And then from D is basically 10. 10. So between 10 and 7, which is the bigger value, will go into G. Okay, 10. 10 plus 8 equivalent to 18. And then for E, 5 will be transferred here directly. 5 plus 9 equivalent to 14. Okay, now what goes inside the issue is I and J. K is easy. We just do K first. K, 14 plus 14 transfer here, 14 plus 3 equivalent to 17. Okay, now the issue is I. Okay, now there are two issues, I and J. There are two arrow going inside the activity, I, but the arrow, one is from finish to start, another arrow is from finish to finish. So we need to do two evaluation. How to evaluate? We evaluate based on the arrows that goes into the activity. First arrow for I, remember I, one arrow coming from F. If for instance, we assume this value 11 will go inside here, 11. 11 plus 4 equivalent to 15 as one values. Okay, now everything for forward pass, we take the bigger value among the relationship. Okay, so 15 could be one possible values. It is not confirmed yet. Now you need to take a look at the arrow coming from H, but it is coming from the back of the arrow. It is not from the left, the back of the arrow. When it is coming from the back, only the back value from previous what we call activity will goes into the back of the following activity. That is the concept. Okay, so from where the value come from, that is where the value will be put inside the following box. So now 22 plus minus 2 equivalent to 20. So that's why 20 is here. Between 20 and 15, the bigger value would be 20. So meaning to say, I do have two predecessors, F and H. But the more dominant relationship is basically from H. This is dominant relationship. I call it dominant. Okay, so the relationship that will influence the duration or the date of late start, late start, late finish, whatever, is coming from H. So that's how 20 is there. So how this is what we call early finish. How do we get the value of early start? Well, remember the early finish basically we get from adding early start with the duration. So if you want to know the early start value for I based on H relationship, then we can subtract with duration. So meaning to say 20 minus 4 equivalent to 16. So that's how 16 is there. Okay, that is the value that will be sitting inside the box based on the relationship, the dominant relationship that influence. Okay, so we finish on I. How about J? Okay, now J basically do have similar concept. One is coming from finish to start here from activity of E. So let's assume one relationship is coming from E. So 14 plus 2 equivalent to 16. So this is how 16 is there. So if 16 is there, then add with 12 equivalent to 28. That could be just one possibility, but we need to evaluate. What if J is coming from G, predecessor, what could be the date to complete certain J activity? Well, because it is finish to finish, now the value that we need to evaluate is this value, 18. Okay, so 18 plus 3 equivalent to 21. So between 21 and 28, 28 is a bigger value. So that's why 28 is there, taking after the predecessor from E. So meaning to say, E is the dominant predecessor where it will influence whatever the value inside E will influence the value that we put inside J. Okay, so now after completing I, J, and K, so what is the overall project duration? By now, we already know. The biggest value among all, because I, J, and K is the ending relationship, is the end of the relationship actually, of the project. So whatever the biggest value will be put inside the last box there, even though it is not necessary, but in order to complete the calculation, 28 plus 0 equivalent to 28. So this is the overall project duration. Overall project duration, 28 days. Okay. Where does 28 days come from? Actually, it is coming from J. Okay. J is the last activity to complete. Okay, that is what we call forward pass. Then, okay, backward pass. Okay, backward pass is simply you do the calculation backward. 28, then you copy back into here, 28. Then you do the what we call the calculation inside the box. By subtracting with the duration, you will get the late start. 28 minus 0 equivalent to 28. Yeah, that is simple. Then, using the arrow, you go back. Okay, if there is an arrow coming from I, then you go back to I. If there is an arrow coming from J, then you go back to J, etc., etc. So 28 will go back to here because all relationship is finished to start. Then 28 also will go into J. 28 also will go into K. Okay, will go into K. Okay, let's say for K, how to calculate late start? Very easy. 28 minus duration equivalent to late start. So 28 minus 3 equivalent to 25. So now we already completed the calculation inside the box. Okay. How about J? 28 minus 12 equivalent to 16. Okay, J is complete. J, K is complete. How about I? Everything inside the box. 28 minus 4 equivalent to 24. Okay, now J, K, I is complete. Now, let's focus on H. Okay. For F, for instance, before we go into H, F, because it is finished to start relationship, so whatever the value here, the left side of the box, will go inside here. As simple as that. But how about for H? Because H, the connection is from the back of the box. Always remember that, the back of the box. So we do not take the value of 24 to go inside the H, but we need to take the value of 28. Now 28 will go inside here. But before it goes, we need to evaluate everything. Backward pass is basically to subtract. How do we subtract? 28 minus 2. We subtract is the lag or lead. If the lag is positive, then it is positive here. If the lag is negative, then it is negative. 28 as if plus 2 equivalent to 30. So that's why 30 is there inside the box there. Okay, because one, the relationship is finish to finish. Second is basically it has negative lag. So by calculation wise, the way we calculate is always like this: 28, and then we take into account going at the back of the what we call arrow, then subtract with whatever the lag or lead there, then only we will get the late finish of H. Okay, but the issue is that if, for instance, if you do the calculation, the rest of the calculation, it looks like as if we are doing fine. We are doing the right thing. But you notice one thing, based on this diagram, you notice this 30. This 30 is very contrary to the project duration. The overall project duration is at 28 days. But then how come among the activities, when you do the late start, then one activity basically can finish, have a late finish, much late than the project completion date. That is the issue. But by doing the calculation, it looks like as if it is correct. The incorrect assumption is that you must remember when we do the backward pass, always remember to take the smallest value among the evaluation. So now there is something that we miss. You know what we miss? Okay, we have one alternative. This is what we call one alternative. Another alternative is this one. Remember, the overall project duration is only at 28 days. That is another criteria. So your criteria is whether to choose here one option and option 2. Actually, in this scenario, if you choose option 1, then it is wrong already, because you cannot encroach more than 28 days, because that is the overall project duration. The overall project duration is at 28 days. Everything must be completed within 28 days. So the evaluation shall be, even though you get 30 in terms of calculation, but in terms of what we call decision, you must choose 28 days to be put inside the box for H. Then only you will get the right calculation. Okay, so this slide is basically a wrong slide. It's wrong calculation. I just want to show you how you can get a wrong calculation based on missing assumption. Missing assumption is that when you do the backward pass, you must take the least values among the evaluation of what we call the returning arrow. Okay, but we forgot to do that. So now here, if you look at this slide, I put down new here. New. This is the right one. This is the right slide, which now we do have 28 days. We already checked with Microsoft Project and even Primavera. It basically gives the same answer. So this is the right answer. Okay, so based on this right answer, okay, now we want to do the backward pass again. Backward pass is 28 minus 28 minus 0 equivalent to 28. 28 will be transferred here, here, and here. I think we have done with I. 28 minus 4 equivalent to 24. This is easy. Within the box is easy, but in between the activity, that is the more difficult one. Could be confused. 28 minus 12 equivalent to 16. And then K28 minus 3 equivalent to 25. All right. Okay, now the issue with H. H, as I mentioned, if one alternative, 28 minus 2 equivalent to 30. We do not take this one. We take whatever the least value in a project, which is 28. Okay, once you do that, you get the right answer. Then you can do the rest of the calculation. 28 minus 8 equivalent to 20. And then 20 will be transferred here because it is finished to start relationship. 20 minus 11 equivalent to 9. Okay, you complete until H. How about F? F also you can complete. Okay, 24 minus 4 equivalent to 19. All right. And then the issue is G. Okay. So it looks like G basically do have same issue as in H. Okay, never mind. How to evaluate? Okay. Remember, G is coming from um, do have finished to start relationship with a lag of 3 days. So to evaluate here, we take 28. 28 now to calculate here. 28 where is minus plus 3. Plus 3 is the lag. 28 minus plus 3, meaning to say 28 minus 3 equivalent to 25. So this 25 is the answer that we put inside G. Why it is okay to use 25? Because 25 is still within the project. So it is okay, nothing wrong with that. Okay, so 25 now minus with 8 equivalent to 17. So we completed on G. Okay, now for E. For E, there are two arrows going back. Okay, coming back from J and coming back from K. So we do have two values that we need to evaluate. One could be from K, 25, as one alternative. But how about coming from J? J, 16 is the value that we are going to take. But remember, there is a plus 2 lag. So we must evaluate 16 minus plus 2 equivalent to 14. So that's why 14 is the one here. Sorry, not here. 14 is the one that we choose because it is the least between 25 and 14. So 14 is here, and then minus with 9 equivalent to 5. 5 transfer here equivalent to 5. 5 minus 5 equivalent to 0. Okay. So B, E, K finish. How about D? D is easy. 17 is here. 17 minus 10 equivalent to 10. The last one is basically A. Okay, now A. Always remember, when you want to calculate backwards, remember one thing. How many arrow going back into that particular activities? You have to look at the arrow one by one. Be careful. If you do not be careful, you might assume that there are 2 arrow going back. Why? Because this is the arrow that you can see, and this is the arrow that you can see clearly. But then remember, there is 1 arrow coming from C. It is coming from the front, not at the back. Okay. So there are 3 arrows that you need to evaluate. Because the issue is that you want to know, how do we get 6 and 13? How do we get this value? Well, okay, now let's evaluate one by one. Based on arrow coming back from F, this is finish to start relationship. You notice that the value of 19 is the one that we are going to use. 19 minus 1. That's how you calculate. 19 minus 1, which is equivalent to 19 plus 1, equivalent to 20. That could be one values. Okay, how about if it is coming from G? G is basically 17. It will get transfer here, 17. For sure, between 20 and 17, 17 is much smaller. But wait a second, we do have 1 arrow coming back from C. Okay, now the arrow coming back from C is not from finish to start, but it is start to start. When it is start to start, so the values that we are going to use is basically here. The front value 9 here, going through this line, 9 minus plus 3, equivalent to 6. 6 is here. 6, if we want to know the late start, the late start and late finish, 6 plus 7 equivalent to 13. So now we must evaluate between 13, 17, or 20. Which is the smallest value? For sure it is 13. So 13 is the value that we want actually. How do we get that 13? Is basically from the going back arrow from C. Okay, from going back arrow from C, then that's how you basically get the value of 13. So it is the 13, 17, and 20 is the one that we wanted to make comparison actually, but the nature of the arrow is coming back from C, from the front. So that's why we need to identify what is the value for the late finish first. Then only we can determine the value of late finish. Late start, this is late start, and then this is the late finish. Okay, so that's how a Pdm diagram, if you notice there is a lot of complicated thing. Wait until you come across the assignment later on that we are going to release very soon. Then you notice that once we input into different relationship with lag and lead, then the the calculation can be very messy. But at the end of the day, you can always get the answer. Don't worry. How messy is that? Just simply use the same concept. Forward pass, backward pass, looking at the relationship, lag, lead, for sure you will get the answer. Okay. All right. So, okay. So, that is the filling up the early start and late start values. Late start, early start, early finish, late start, late finish. But then how about the total float? Okay. You notice that there is this value here, the blue color and the red color. The blue indicate total float. This one is total float. This one is basically the free float. Now let's calculate example of total float and free float. Okay, total float and free float. Okay, what is the total float? Total float is easy. You make comparison between this value minus with the upper value. Meaning to say, late finish minus early finish. Or late start minus early start. You can always get that value. You will get 11. That is the total float. Okay, that is the total float value. And how about the the free float? Okay, now the free float. Remember the free float for K, you must make comparison. What is the successor of K? Successor of K is basically here. This activity, finish activity. When do finish activity start? 28 days. When basically K finish? On 17 days. So based on the differences, always remember the free float for activity K equivalent to early start or finish, activity finish. I just put the F, finish, minus early finish of K itself. Meaning to say this value compare with this value, automatically you can calculate the free float of each activity very quickly. Okay, that is the fundamental. But then there is an issue. There will always an issue with regard to lag and lead. Everything you need to take into consideration when you calculate, especially free float. Total float is easy. Total float, you do everything inside the box. Okay, but when you want to calculate free float, you must look at the activity, the successor activity. When you look at the successor activity, the issue is that it does have different type of relationship plus the lead and lag. That is the complicated one. Okay, let's take a look at this thing. Okay, which one do we want to show example? Okay, let's assume activity, let's take a look at activity E. Let's assume that we want to calculate the free float for activity E. How do we calculate? Remember, activity E do have relationship with K. Okay, so we must evaluate one by one. Okay, the K will start at 14 days, whereas the finishing of E is at 14 days. So 14 minus 14 equivalent to 0. All right, so we already established that. You cannot get free float basically in this type of relationship less than that, less than 0. 0 is the values that we are going to use. How about between E and J? How do we calculate free float? Okay, to evaluate, this is 16. 16 you must minus with 2. Okay, the way to evaluate is basically 16. You minus with 2 because 2 is the here. You will get 14. Then 14 you make comparison with 14. Again it is 0. So that's how you get the free float of 0. Okay, in both scenario. But if for instance you calculate between E and K is 0, between E and J is, let's say, 5. So your free float, you should use the lowest value, the least value, which is basically 0. Because there is only one free float value for each activity. But for comparison purposes, I just want to show you, you need to evaluate between whatever the successor of those activity. But then you choose the least one. Okay. Okay. How about H? Let's focus on H. The free float. The total float is easy. How do you calculate total float? 20 minus 14 equivalent to 6. Okay. Or 28 minus 2 equivalent to 6. So that's how you get the total float. But the issue is that how do you get the free float? Okay, free float, you notice that there is you cannot make comparison. Free float, as in this definition, we cannot compare 16 with this value. How do you compare? You simply cannot compare because remember, you need to take into consideration the type of relationship that goes into those activity plus lead and lag in order to consider the free float as well. But now, since the relationship is not finished to start, then we cannot compare between this value 16 and then that value. No, you need to compare between this value at the end of the value. How do you compare? 20 minus 2, then it is equivalent to 22. 22, then only you compare with this one. Minus 22 equivalent to 0. So that's how you get the 0 value for free float. Okay, so in conclusion, for PDM diagram, when you construct the network diagram, you construct according to the right arrow to show the right arrow in terms of start to start, finish to finish. Then you also show in terms of lead and lag, because those value or type of relationship will influence the calculation in terms of early start, early finish, late start, late finish, date, and then it will influence in terms of total float and free float as well. That is the why PDM diagram now being used a lot in all the computer programming, because it do accommodate different type of relationship, and in such a way it accommodate the complex relationship. That is the one that we need in a complex activity such as in construction or oil and gas company. Okay, oil and gas industry. Okay, so in the final exam, previously we give objective question. In objective question, normally we do have what we call theoretical question plus the calculation question. For instance, we do have some example. Okay, this is example of a theoretical question. Based on activity, X activity, and then Y activity, okay, we wanted to know which relationship is basically correct. Start to start, start to start. Start to start means to say here, with positive lag. Is it positive lag? Okay. Is it positive lag? Yes. Accurate, because when you push the starting of the following activity a little bit forward, then basically that is basically positive lag. Okay, second scenario, finish to finish. Finish to finish. Let's say here, finish to finish. FF. Finish to finish with positive lag. Yes, because you push the activity here, the finish here, a little bit far from the original what is supposed to be, because you have positive something values, then it is correct. Finish to start with a positive lag. Finish to start. Okay, let's take a look at this one. This one. FS. With positive lag plus something. Is it correct or not? Okay. So this drawing is not meant for positive. It is negative lag. So this one is incorrect already. Okay. So you already know one. Anything with 3 basically is wrong. 3 is wrong. 3 is wrong. So you have 2 more. Start with negative lag. Could not be because you already have that one. So finish to start with negative lag. Okay, this is the correct way. This is what we call elimination process in the objective question. Okay, this question is basically theoretical but based on calculation. What is the early start value for L and then free float for L? What we call early start here, early start. And then free float for L. So this is what the question is all about. Early start and then for L. Okay, you notice that, for instance, 9 plus 8 equivalent to 17. 17 will go inside here, but you notice that 10 plus 15 equivalent to 25. 25 will go inside here, 25, as one possibility. 25 minus 7, okay? 25 minus 7 equivalent to 18. So, which one is bigger value? So basically 18, okay? 18 plus 7 equivalent to 25. So meaning to say this is a more dominant relationship. You notice that the answer 17 and 18 is there. If you make a wrong calculation, if you are very hurry, perhaps you will answer 17 because it's coming from here. So it is not right already. Okay. And then similarly for free float. So free float is the differences between this value and this value. That is as simple as that. For most of the relationship, finish to start, it is as easy as that. So if you take 30 minus 25 equivalent to 5, you notice there is an answer for that. You might take D as an answer. But you remember M is coming from L. So the early start of M will take after L 25. 25 plus 11 is 36. You notice 25. So 25, if you make comparison here, 25 minus 25 equivalent to 0. So the right answer is basically 0. It is not 5. That's how the example of what we call theoretical objective question. Okay, because I will give you assignment from the previous final exam question, which basically use objective question, so that you can go through the all kind of reading material in order to get the answer and to see how those answers are being developed. And this is another example of Pdm diagram. You notice there is a SS2, meaning to say SS plus 2. SS, FS, there is no lead. And this is very complicated diagram. Okay, you notice that sometime like this example. Give you one example. You notice that J and K, they are two relationships, finish to finish and start to start. Okay, going into the same activity. Similarly, for I and J, start to start and finish to finish. And then how are you going to evaluate? If you use MS project won't allow this type of relationship. This is what we call redundant. They cannot be only one activity, only one predecessor which could be dominant. if you put something like this, which one is dominant? That's why Microsoft Project won't allow you to use this type of both type of what we call arrow inside the same what we call activity. But for Primavera, they allow, because Primavera is much more advanced software. Maybe the arithmetic can accommodate such calculation. But just want to give you example, when you do have this kind of relationship, at the end of the day, you know whether the dominant relationship is coming from here or here. So either one is dominant relationship. If, for instance, coming from FF, this one is not dominant, then simply, basically, you can delete this relationship. There is no need to have that kind of relationship. Okay, so if you do that, then basically you can input into Microsoft Project using the dominant relationship. Just simply ignore this one. Then you will get the right answer. That is the concept. Okay, similarly, this is one of the previous exam question as well. You are given with the lead, lag, etc., etc., etc. The question is always, we wanted to know what is the overall project completion date, date or what we call duration. The issue is that sometimes instead of asking for duration, we want to know in terms of date. How to get the date? So, for instance, this is the first day. If we give you first day, will start 1st January 2021. Then basically, if you know this thing will take, let's say, 45 days, 45 days is basically working days, 100% working days. We do not deduct with the holiday yet. But if, for instance, if we give, for instance, example, it is only 6 working days, etc., etc., then basically you need to take a look at the calendar. Then only you will get the date of the project. So that could be one question that we normally ask: project completion date or duration. We want to know the critical path. We want to know the total float, free float for certain activities. So you must be able to calculate certain activities. And then another question is that we want to know the impact on certain activity if certain activity is being delayed. Actually, if you know how to read this thing, then basically you don't have to do the revised diagram. Perhaps some people will do the revised diagram, so it will take most of your time during the final exam, whatever. So actually, this is the tip. Just by looking at the total float, free float, then you will know what would be the impact when certain activity being delayed. For instance, if F is being delayed, what could be the impact to J or even I or even to the overall project duration? You can know actually, but just for the sake of learning purposes, normally during in the real construction project, that is what is happening. When something happens to certain activities, let's say that activity is being delayed, in terms of the project, the material being delivered late, machine breakdown, low productivity of the workers, what would be the impact? That is something which is very common. Okay. All right then. Okay, that would be the end of our class. Okay, let me take this one.